At the start of any new year, there's this universal feeling, right? You look at the 12 months ahead, this kind of blank canvas of time, and you just think, I don't want to waste this. I want this year to really count for something. So, how do we actually do that? Well, that's the exact question that speaker and author Charles Swindoll really digs into. He asks himself how he can best invest his life for a greater purpose in the year ahead. And his search for an answer, it starts with a very unusual prayer. Don't let me make bird baths. What on earth does that mean? I know, it sounds pretty bizarre, but that single, strange sentence is actually the key to a really powerful metaphor for a wasted life. And it frames this entire message. To get what he means by that prayer, we have to go back to a story Swindoll references, a story originally told by his friend David Roper in a sermon way back in 1970 after a walk he took across the Stanford University campus. Roper describes seeing this bird bath, kind of half hidden under a bush. But this wasn't just any old garden decoration. No, this was an ornate, delicate work of art, carved from a single piece of marble. Just imagine the effort, months, maybe even years of dedicated work that went into creating it. And yet there it was, forgotten, overgrown, its bowl just filled with stagnant, gross water. A truly beautiful object that had become utterly useless. And that is what it means to make a bird bath. It's investing your life, your time, and all your energy on things that are, in the end, valueless. It's the fear of pouring your heart and soul into something that will ultimately just be forgotten and covered in weeds. So, if making bird baths is the problem, where do we find the solution? For that, Swindoll turns from this modern metaphor to an ancient text, specifically the 9th chapter of the Gospel of Luke, to find a framework for a life that really, truly counts. And the context here is super intense. Jesus has just asked his disciples who they think he is, and Peter correctly identifies him as the Christ of God. Then, in the very next breath, Jesus just drops this bombshell. He predicts that he must suffer, be rejected, and be killed. And it's right on the heels of that shocking news that he turns to his followers and gives them their own lifetime assignment. So from this brief, really intense passage, Swindoll pulls out a simple 3-part framework for a meaningful life, or, a meaningful year. He calls them the 3 musts. Here they are, laid out pretty simply. He says if anyone wants to follow him, they must, first, deny themselves, second, take up their cross daily, and third, follow him. But what do these commands actually mean in practice? Let's break down that first one. Okay, must number 1, deny yourself. Now, Swindoll suggests that if the word deny kind of throws you, just think of it as say no to. It's a refusal to put your own will, your plans, your preferences, and your desires ahead of everything else. It means you relinquish your own agenda. To put it in really blunt, modern terms, Swindoll says, narcissists need not apply. This idea cuts completely against the grain of our culture, which so often tells us it's all about me and my fulfillment. This is a radical call to put someone else in first place. All right, on to must number 2. Take up your cross daily. Now, this is a phrase we hear a lot, but Swindoll insists we have to understand what the symbol of the cross meant to the people who first heard these words. Our modern image is often really, really different from the first century reality. Today, we see crosses everywhere, as jewelry, on bumper stickers, as church decoration. But in the first century, the cross was never an embellishment. It was an instrument of capital punishment, and the worst kind imaginable. It symbolized public shame, total rejection by society, and a one-way trip to a brutal death. Nobody would have worn that on a necklace. So, taking up your cross daily means being prepared to face rejection for the path you choose. It means dying to the world's value system, and crucially, it's a daily discipline. It can feel like tasting a small death every single day. The death of a dream you had, the death of a personal plan, or the death of a hope you were really clinging to. And the final must is simply this: follow. Swindoll points out that in the original language, this is a present tense command. It doesn't mean follow me once. It means you keep on following. You follow when it's easy and when it's hard, when things are going great and when they're not. It's a continuous, active pursuit. To tie all of this together, Swindoll closes his message with this really poignant, true story that just distills this entire framework down to a single, powerful piece of advice. The story takes place right after the American Civil War.
a young Southern mother finds herself in the presence of the famous General Robert E. Lee. Now, he was a man respected by almost everyone on both sides of that conflict. All she wanted was for this great man to bless her newborn baby.
So she places her child in his arms. The old general holds the baby tenderly, looks down into the infant's eyes, and then he looks back up at the hopeful mother ready to offer his wisdom.
His advice wasn't about success, or fame, or happiness. It was just 6 words. Teach him he must deny himself. He boiled down the most important lesson for a meaningful life to that very first must.
And that brings us to the final question, really, for our own lives. As you look at the year ahead, at all the things you're pouring your time and your energy into, you just have to ask yourself, what is a birdbath? And what is a cross?